Unsent is an indie collect-a-thon platformer very similar to the likes of Banjo-Kazooie, Donkey Kong 64, or Spyro. After spending some time with its closed beta, here are some kind of unstructured thoughts on what we played. You are Valentine, a gangly, heart-shaped fellow who gets a job as a postman in the unsentiment department of a surreal post office world and is tasked with delivering unsent letters. As you settle in, you'll jump around, collect pennies, complete objectives, and defeat enemies after obtaining a mailbag full of junk mail to throw. Fittingly, stamps are your progression collectible that unlock new stages and areas, while the many, many pennies scattered about can be spent on new costumes and skins for Valentine himself. Let's get right to the point. Is it fun? Yeah, it's pretty fun. Levels are reasonably dense and lengthy with plenty of paths to explore and rewards to find in hard-to-reach or out-of-the-way areas. With what's essentially a triple jump and a dash at your disposal, rarely do you feel unnaturally confined or restricted, and leaping around to see where you can and cannot get to is a big part of the fun. It calls to mind something like Super Mario Odyssey with its really advanced movement tech, though it's not quite that deep or that satisfying. The jump mechanics do have a bit of weight to them that can make really precise maneuvers a little challenging, and the fixed perspective moments have a really clumsy sense of depth, but these hiccups aren't very frequent. Combat with the mailbag is pretty shallow. Enemies the game touts as formidable can be locked in place and beaten just by spamming from a distance, but there's also very few enemies to engage with, so the core platforming and level design really do most of the heavy lifting here in terms of gameplay and fun factor, which makes sense since it's a platformer. It creates a fun play space too, with its stylized, 70s-esque vibes and soft art style, a sensible way to present itself. Each stage is littered with fellow employees who shed light on what it's like working in this mysterious and draconian place, and it's a cute way to add depth and mystique to its world, something the game very clearly wants to do. Valentine himself is very well animated, and as a character, he's a spindly one, so watching him flail about with a goofy smile as you jump and dash all over the place is very silly and some pretty endearing character design. Both Valentine and the NPCs are pretty expressive, especially in their throwback text box dialogue scenes, and the expected cast of characters is similarly silly, especially the info-hungry creeper's sign face, who we like to imagine is just Plank from Ed, Edd n Eddy all grown up, but we digress. That said, a substantial number of typos and text errors do start to distract from the otherwise lighthearted dialogue after a while. Between its tutorial, hub world, and 2 main stages, we made it to the end in a little over an hour with about half of the 40 stamps in hand and a few sections of the second stage left unexplored. So if you do take the time to see and do everything, somewhere between 2 and 3 hours of playtime would be a reasonable expectation. According to the end of the beta, the developers expect to add at least 2 more full levels to the completed game, so extrapolate on that and you'll get an idea of how robust, or not, the final product may be. It's worth noting that on the game's Steam page, the publisher explains that they plan to put the game out in early access, work on something else for 6 months, then return to it to add additional content and finish it based on reception and player feedback. If you do choose to support this, you'll need to be okay with that amount of time between potential updates, and in some cases, remember to revisit it down the road when there's more to do. Because we looked at beta code ahead of an early access release, we won't give Unsent a formal score like we usually would, but instead some recommendations on whether you should try it out or not. So, should you? Well, that's a resounding maybe. If you have a fondness for that sort of collect-a-thon platformer that consoles like the Nintendo 64 and PS1 were so full of, then this is probably one to keep on your radar. Its foundations are solid, but some fine-tuning and a more substantial world to explore are definitely needed, and those elements will ultimately determine whether it reaches its final destination or gets lost in transit. Get it? Because it's about mail and stuff! Ah! If its premise and value proposition don't immediately grab you, but you're still interested, maybe see how its early access period develops and what the upcoming content looks like before taking the leap. Unsent launches October 20th into early access on Steam for $10. A free demo is also available for those who wish to try before they buy. These impressions were based on closed beta access provided by the publisher. Thanks so much for watching. Stay fresh, cheese bags. We'll catch you back here real soon.